Hello and welcome to NPC. That stands for Next Portable Console. It's the show about the games we take with us. I'm here with Brendon Bigley, which is me. And I'm also here with Federico Matigi.
Hello, Brendon. It's good that you are with yourself.
I am with me.
Yeah, it's good.
Deep down.
Yeah, it's not obvious. It's not obvious.
Not everybody is as with themselves as I am today.
Yeah.
I'm also with John Voorhees.
I think I'm with myself. I may be having an out-of-body experience. I think so. So. I can feel the cold air. So, I feel like I'm with myself.
Okay, good. We have some really interesting news to cover. I think, broadly speaking, like 3 main items plus 2 bonus items. And then in NPC XL for our Patreon members, we are going to have a little computer talk because these two, they have new computers for gaming.
We do.
I don't because my delivery was delayed. We'll talk about that later.
It's not for lack of trying, right, Federico? That you would have been. You would have been number 3.
I'm actually all ready. I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Before we get into the first main item, there's a first small one, which is a new Anbernic Reveal, the RG477V. Have you guys looked into this?
Yeah, it's we're really sticking with the all glass front, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's like we're not deviating from that anytime soon. It seems like.
Yeah. So this is a vertical handheld with 2 twin sticks at the bottom, all glass front, classic D-pad and classic 4-button configuration. I mean, it looks nice. I'll give you that. I think it looks nice. I think if you are into all glass front handhelds, I kind of like it personally.
I like it too, although there's part of me that feels like a vertical handheld shouldn't have the glass in the bottom half, and I'm not sure why. Maybe because you're handling it so much, in a tight space. But I mean,
think about the Thor, right? Think about our experience. At least my experience with the Thor. I have the Thor in black. Like I'm getting fingerprints all over that thing.
Yeah. It does. It does pick up fingerprints pretty easily. That's for sure.
Yeah. This one, we don't have pricing details, but there's speculation that it should be below $200. It's not using a metal body, so that should cut the costs a little. I would say like this, just looking at this and the all glass front, I don't know, I'm getting like a $149 vibe from this device. Just, I should be a contestant on the price.
Getting a 149 vibe is like so good. I don't know what it is about that collection of words that really did it for me.
I'm just looking at it, and that's sort of the vibe that I'm getting. When you have a mental picture of an object, and you're like, what vibe is this if it were money? Yeah. And it's like 149.
Yeah, no, you would be good on Price is Right, Federico.
I loved that show as a kid. Although, I got to tell you, sorry for the tangent here.
Is there an Italian version?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I thought so.
Literally translated, ok, il prezzo è giusto, which is, okay, the price is right.
Right.
But in Italy, there's been a revival of the Wheel of Fortune, the game show. It's become, in the past few months, like the most watched, like prime time, like in the 9 p.m. slot show in Italy.
No,
really?
It used to be huge when I was a kid.
Sure.
And then it was gone for 20 years. They brought it back this summer, and it's huge again. And I gotta tell you, Sylvia tells me that I'm like pretty good at it from home, and she keeps saying, "No, you should try and go there. You should try and go on the Wheel of Fortune." And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of thought about it to go on the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Hey, we have a diner in town that shows The Price is Right, but it's showing the show from the 70s, and it's fascinating. We love going there go for lunch and just sit and watch Price is Right with no sound on for like a half an hour.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Interesting. So anyway, the Anbernic, I'm guessing 149, but we'll see.
All right.
This is the next item is also another one that we'll need to guess a price for. And this one will be in a completely different ballpark. So AYANEO, our good friends at AYANEO announced, and I gotta hand it to them, announced what I think, for my taste, is the most exciting handheld they've revealed in a while. They've gone all out with this one. So the AYANEO Next II, horizontal handheld, 9-inch, 165 Hz OLED display, 2400 by 1504 resolution, kind of weird resolution, up to a peak brightness of 1100 nits.
Which is huge. It's like double
Huge.
most handhelds.
2 touchpads in the front because this is a Windows-based handheld rocking a Strix Halo chipset.
Don't forget the battery, Federico.
And the battery, 115 watt-hour battery.
Which it's worth mentioning, according to Windows Central, is larger than you are allowed to bring on a flight in Europe or the US.
Technically, I mean, you can risk it.
It's gigantic. It's like, I think it's like 35. It depends on the voltage, but it's probably like a couple of those really big batteries that people use for travel.
Yeah. I mean, you can try your luck and bring this thing on a flight, but if it gets confiscated and taken away from you, we told you. I mean, honestly, like from the pictures, this thing looks stunning. I really, really like it. It's going to be incredibly expensive. Like I would say, we are realistically looking at a starting price of $2,000. Like knowing AYANEO,
yeah,
and
maybe
knowing
even 2,500.
Maybe even more because it's Strix Halo. So I mean, it obviously will depend on the Strix Halo configurations. If and when multiple models and variations are announced, this thing is going to be expensive, really premium. Judging from the pictures, but it's going to run Windows.
It's got to be liquid cooled, right? I mean, it's going to be. This thing's going to get really hot.
With that battery.
Well, if you consider all the other Strix Halo handhelds that are out there, all of them have the batteries detached, right? And this is the only one that has an integrated battery, so they have to have figured something out cooling wise, or else, it's going to feel like holding a hot metal ball.
Yeah.
It's a giant handheld, but it's, by the same token, for a Strix Halo machine, it's tiny.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
It's like holding the mini PC in your hands.
Yes. It's like, what if a mini PC actually had a display in the front? That's basically what it is. And I mean, also, I'm so curious to hear, like, is it going to be liquid cooled? I'm guessing yes, because that battery is going to put out a lot of heat. But also, like, is it going to be noisy? Because you gotta have ventilation in addition to the liquid cooling. Like, you just gotta have both. There's no world in which there's just liquid cooling and no fans. And so those fans are going to be noisy, and it's going to be liquid cooled, and it's going to have Strix Halo and a 9-inch OLED display. This thing is going to be so expensive. Plus the Windows license on top of it.
Yeah.
Plus it's AYANEO.
Oh.
Okay, wait. So it's looking like no liquid cooling, but
really,
but two fans.
Oh, it's going to be noisy then.
Yeah, judging from what we're going to be talking about in XL, it's going to be noisy.
It's going to be noisy and it's going to be heavy. Both of them. So, I mean, technically, it is a handheld. But
you don't need to bring it on a flight because the two fans will just propel you into the air every time you try to play
it. Just fly to Europe.
Yeah. Hold it over your head and it's a helicopter.
Yeah.
It's like a hoverboard. We'll see. Now, the next item, I haven't really looked into this, Brendon. What is iiSU?
Oh, man. You haven't looked into iiSU at all. Okay,
No.
It's fun to be able to give you a recap of, well, fun is maybe not the right way of putting it. But okay, so iiSU, iiSU, is a new Android front end that has been teased over the better part of, I would say, like 3 or 4 months at this point. As dual screen handhelds started to pop up here and there, people wanted, a better dual screen experience in terms of front ends. There's some support here and there. Console Launcher has some like decent dual screen support. Emulation Station, as we talked about, I think last week, has the ability to launch the game on the other screen. So you have Emulation Station on one screen and the game launches on another screen. But no one's really building from the ground up a front end for dual screens. And this iiSU tech demo, I guess is maybe a way of putting it, but more so just like a sizzle reel of like design concepts, showed off a beautiful, like truly beautiful dual screen front end that had design inspirations from, I would say, like 3DS era, Wii U era Nintendo, complete with, which I think is fascinating, the ability to create your own account, see what your friends are playing as well, if they're playing, retro achievement support, also just like very easy mapping between your game library and what emulators you wanted to open up in, either being RetroArch cores or standalone emulators, plus full integration with all your Android apps. Generally speaking, it just felt like the dream front end. Like, regardless of if you're into the design of it or not, it just had every feature you wanted, plus a bunch of new interesting ideas. And a lot of people immediately thought that this was going to be vaporware because of how ambitious it was.
Yeah, it's a huge project.
It's a huge project. And then I think it was Russ over at Retro Game Core who was like, I have an alpha of this. It's on my Thor. I'm trying it out. And, it's an alpha, but it's decent. But that basically got people really juiced on the idea that this could be real. They then followed that up. The developers of iiSU then followed that up with I think 15 to 20 minute, like almost Nintendo Direct style showcase of the entire front end, like the entire piece of software, everything it was supposed to be able to do. And it was like stunning. It's really beautiful looking. Literally that day, because they released that video and then opened up their Discord and they said, hey, you can come join the Discord. People immediately realized that the Discord that they had opened up was a repurposed like friend Discord, like a it's like a group of people who were just like chatting with one another. And then they were like, now this is the official Discord for iiSU. And people just like scrolled up a little bit and saw some really heinous stuff that the developer was saying. The lead developer was, turns out, not a great person. And basically the next day was like, I'm out of the project. Obviously, like I'm bowing out, like this is not worth it, et cetera, et cetera. I don't really think they apologized for the things that they said. I won't get into what they are, but they're not good. Yeah. But then after that, a bunch of new people kind of took over and they were like, okay, we're going to continue shepherding this project forward because it's an interesting idea. And it's something that I think the group of people who are making it seemed really compelled to finish. I didn't even mention this. One thing that I'm really obsessed with, background music. They hired a composer to make like kind of Nintendo style menu music as well, which cool. I love. Wow. It's a fun idea. Anyway, so I think it was like 2 days after that, they then released another alpha publicly. They now have a public GitHub where they're going to be updating it on the fly live for people. You can go check it out, which I did. I downloaded this alpha because I was curious. I have it on the Thor. And again, just kind of like Russ said, it's an alpha, man. It's like, it's really bare bones. The most you can do right now really is just take your games from wherever you have them, throw them into this thing, decide what emulator they're going to open up in, and then like that's it. It also has a shelf for your apps. It does display on 2 screens, which is nice. It looks very pretty, but there's like no account customization. You can't scrape for box art. Oh. Yeah, there's like almost nothing going on outside of just being able to open up your apps. But if this is, their kind of first foot forward in terms of showing off that this is a real thing that they intend on making legitimate, then that's exciting. And honestly, I would really love to see this thing come to fruition. The alpha is not in a state that I would consider to be like daily driver level usable at all. It really just feels like a tech demo, but it's cool that it exists and is on my floor.
So was it originally designed by one person? That person's out, and now it's a group.
It was kind of already a group, but it was spearheaded by this one person, and now that one person is out. So now it's just the group, if that makes sense. I get it. Yeah, the rest of the people. Well, it's at least they have some background in it, though. I mean, as opposed to just being picked up by random people who are interested in it. Yeah. That said, I will mention for people, if you are using Emulation Station as your front end, there is already an iiSU theme that you can download that is pulling a lot of the design elements from what iiSU is supposed to be, and it's awesome. Like it is actually that has become my daily driver on the Thor. Is the iiSU theme on ESDE instead.
Yeah, that seems like a good way to go, at least in the meantime, until the other thing has more functionality.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, I feel like we're not so far off from Emulation Station adding like true dual screen support.
Yeah, because they have all the plumbing for a lot of what you need already. It's just like a handful of features that are unique to dual screen.
Yeah. I feel like we're maybe a couple months away at most.
Yeah.
Okay, next time I really want to talk about this interview.
Yes.
On The Verge.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Sean Hollister at The Verge was able to interview Valve's, I'm going to try, Pierre-Loup Griffais, if it's
Sounds
French.
Good. Yeah.
It's one of the architects of SteamOS, Steam Deck. You've seen this person on social media talking about the Steam Deck and SteamOS. And it's this wide-ranging interview about not necessarily the Steam machine, but the Steam frame, and more broadly, the idea of Steam emulation on ARM chipsets, which we talked about a few weeks ago when the Steam frame was announced. And the idea that you will be able on the Steam frame to run PC games on ARM. So ARM being the chip architecture behind all of your Android-based devices. And at the time, we realized, well, okay, so Valve is clearly using this emulator called FEX, FEX. Then later we learned that FEX was also built into GameHub, but this interview reveals something much, much deeper and really, really interesting. Turns out that it was actually Valve who was behind FEX all along from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Valve, around 2016, realized that ARM was going to be a big deal, that the performance that you were getting from ARM chipsets at the time and the trajectory of ARM chipsets was going to eclipse whatever kind of performance you would get on the same form factor from an x86 Intel-based system on a chip. And so Valve realized, well, we think ARM is going to be a big deal. But learning from our previous mistakes of the original Steam machine, we don't want to force developers to convert their games from one platform to another. In fact, they go on the record in the interview basically saying, we think that any work done porting a game is wasted work. We want developers to focus on making the game or making new games instead of porting an existing game to another platform for another architecture. And so in 2017, Valve realized ARM is going to be a big deal. We should both invest in making a translation layer for Windows to Linux, but also a translation layer for Windows to Android, to ARM. And Valve found an original a developer who created and started working on FEX all those years ago. And Valve has been contributing financially to FEX all along, to the point where for this developer, it's their full-time job to work on FEX. And they've been working on FEX for almost a decade at this point. And now sort of like we're connecting all the dots. Valve knew that it was going to be, they said in the interview, they knew it was going to be almost a decade-long process to get to this point. So first of all,
that's the part that's wild to me.
The vision to know in 2016. So that's
exactly.
Let's contextualize. That's 1 year after the failed Steam machine.
Right. Launches, right? So that's 2015, and 3 years before they stop manufacturing Steam machines from this era of them.
That is
so while they're failing.
Yes.
Right.
That is 4 years before the launch of Apple Silicon, very famously based on ARM. Mm-hmm. So in 2016, ARM is looking at the current chipsets based on ARM and is projecting future performance bumps based on ARM. And they're saying, well, okay, so we think this is going to be a big deal. We should start working on something that realistically will take almost 10 years. But we want to start working on this now because in the future, we will have a way to run Steam games on these really compact and portable form factors in a way that is going to be beneficial to us for future devices and potentially for the industry as a whole. So, like, the vision alone, for me, like, from my perspective, is, like, staggering, like, this story. And then the details, like finding a single developer and financially contributing to the entire project that was making no money. Because, like, this whole thing was is not making any money.
Well, and it's open source, too.
And it's open source.
Right.
So, truly an incredible story. But then, to reach I think it's so fascinating that in the last few months, we collectively realized, oh, this thing called GameHub and Game Native, they're good enough at this point. And at the same time, Valve is like, yeah, there you go. Here's the Steam frame. Yep. And it's based on, like, something that seemed, I guess, what really surprised me from this interview beyond the vision is that something that seemed to us to be a coincidence actually was no coincidence at all.
Right. It was a carefully planned thing that came together in a really complicated and orchestrated way that is just mind-blowing, really.
Yeah. And obviously, Valve, they're now on the record saying, yeah, So we think at this point there's still some work to do. And it's very complicated, translating all those Windows APIs to native ARM APIs. But the way the effects has been designed, it's like maximizing the performance that you can get from the CPU and really being efficient in emulating all that Windows code and native Windows API calls. But they're saying, well, at this point, beyond the Steam frame, we think this will open up some possibilities for things like laptops based on ARM, handhelds. They said we've been in touch with some handheld manufacturers that are working with ARM, and we're open to ideas. We got some pitches for the living room as well, and they mentioned we also know that like ARM on desktop is something that is happening, and so potentially we could see effects running on SteamOS with ARM on desktop. Why not?
Yeah, the vibe that I got from those quotes in particular too is kind of exactly what we thought. We've been comparing it to Google with the Pixel line in particular. It's like this is what Google thinks Android should look like and how it should operate elsewhere.
Right, a reference device essentially.
Yes. And in the case of Valve, the Steam Machine, the Steam Deck, and the Frame are kind of their proof of concept for SteamOS on all of these different kinds of devices, and they're just kind of like allowing everybody else to have their own interpretation of it, which I think is going to be very interesting. But like I'm curious now how long before. We know it's going to be AYANEO first, right? Of course it is. AYANEO is going to be the first one to have the SteamOS mini handheld. But I'm waiting for like the Ayn Odin 4, for example, to have two versions of it. One that comes with Android as a front end and one that comes with SteamOS as a front end. Like it feels like we're not at all far off from that. And it makes me, I mean, Federico, when your Odin 3 comes in, like you gotta sacrifice it to try, right?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Of course you do. Of course you do. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating to me that this is open source and these are essentially reference devices, and Valve. I mean, obviously Valve's Play is the Steam store. It's your Steam library. And to me, looking at this, I got to think that if we see devices come out in multiple versions that are like Android and SteamOS, that in the end Steam is going to win. I want to say, because I think Android is trying to do a lot of different things that a lot of handheld manufacturers don't need, including being a phone. There's a lot of stuff. I think if Valve is truly optimizing this for games, that in the end is going to win out over a general purpose operating system.
Yeah, I would assume so. Well, yeah, for this specific product category, definitely. But I imagine there's going to be a lot of people who still want Android for for some specific reason. I think there's going to be like a weird kind of gradient, between when this launches in a way that people feel is stable enough to start using, and when it gets to the point where maybe Ayn has, a dedicated product listing for it. But I think you're right, John, that for this product category, it feels like kind of a no-brainer that this would end up being the thing that people go to.
I do wonder whether it'll be capable of playing Android games. I guess it will, because the Frame is going to play Android games. Isn't that right?
I think they've already said that it would be able to, right?
I thought so.
I think they mentioned that when the Frame was first announced.
Yeah.
What's the American expression? Laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Laughing all the way to the
bank.
bank,
Who's laughing all the way to the bank? Qualcomm.
Qualcomm.
Because no matter what, they're making the chipsets for Android devices. They're making the chipsets for future SteamOS on Android devices. They're making the modems for people who want to have Qualcomm is like, we're making everything. And I think it's so fascinating that, and especially with our background, on Mac stories covering Apple, we've seen the takes from people a few years ago when Apple announced Apple Silicon and Apple making their own modems, being like, Qualcomm is so done. Qualcomm is finished. No,
not so much.
They're not.
So wild.
Then, speaking of Android,
speaking of the Odin,
we have the Retro Game Core review of the Odin 3, of the Ayn Odin 3, which I watched this morning. And we got some hands-on previews last week, and now Russ put out a review. And I have some thoughts that I wanted to share. First of all, just patting myself on the back a little, I was right in assuming that this thing was going to be a beast for PC emulation.
Yeah.
All things considered, from the video that Russ published, we're basically seeing performance of complex PC games like Nier Automata, for example, running at 720p medium settings at 55 FPS. That we're not talking about like running Animal Well or Sectori or like any other 2D indie game. We're talking about an action game, Nier Automata.
This demo was nuts. Like this was one of those a
fast-paced action game that requires pretty good performance, and you're running it at 720p, so not 1080p, but 720 medium settings, 55 FPS, using GameHub on an Android handheld.
Yeah.
To me, this is wild.
This
Absolutely
was the equivalent to me of the God of War demo on the Red Magic 11 Pro. Was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Yeah.
So the like, I think it's gonna be really interesting for me to install as many and different types of PC games on the Odin 3 and really test GameHub performance. Especially now that I know that Valve is behind FX, it kind of puts a completely new spin on GameHub for me. Mm-hmm. I really hope that we can get some other, because at this point GameHub is like a front end for FX essentially.
Yeah,
basically.
Essentially. Yeah.
So I really hope that at some point we get an official Valve-made, Steam app of some kind. Mm-hmm. But for now, GameHub is based on the Valve tech, so that's cool. And I really want to try, because at this point, indie games are a known quantity. I can play on my Aeon Thor, I can play Ball Pit, and it's totally fine. So those types of games will be completely, aside from, games that have some weird graphic rendering API call, but most of those games will be okay. Such as, for example, Brendon, you mentioned the lighting effects in Dragon Quest, I think. There are going to be edge cases, even for simpler games. Yeah. But by and large, those styles of games are fine. But now, like, Dragon Quest 11, for example, was struggling on my Aeon Thor. Yep. I guess it's going to be fine on the Odin 3.
I would think so.
And obviously, so beyond pushing the frontier of PC emulation, as Russ noticed, this thing will have the Snapdragon 8 Elite, and driver support for that is a little iffy at the moment. It's going to be interesting to reevaluate if this thing is successful, and I think it will be. Like, what does it look like driver-wise? What does it look like in the community 6 months from now?
Right.
But the signs are already quite encouraging, and Russ also covered Switch emulation. There are some issues with the latest games, but by and large, I am really, really impressed.
One of the things that I find really interesting, too, between Russ's review and then some of the other ones I've seen as well, is there is this push and pull between needing to wait for drivers to get full support so we can get as much compatibility with things like Switch and 3DS as we have on the current line of Snapdragon chips, but simultaneously, the 8 Elite has so much overhead that it kind of just pushes through the need for drivers in some cases.
Right.
So it's a coin flip, but what it really means at the end of the day is foundationally we're in a much stronger spot starting out with the 8 Elite than we ever have been with some of the previous generations of chips, which is really exciting. That's one of those things where as soon as the first driver that works even remotely reliably comes out, the 8 Elite becomes the go-to for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think so too. We're really at the very first step into this new era of chipsets for this kind of gaming.
Yeah,
you're going to be able to play your NES games at resolutions heretofore unexplored
with multiple shaders going at the same time.
Yeah.
And the final thing I will mention is that we should also consider the performance of the 8 Elite for local Wi-Fi streaming, because Russ mentioned that he was seeing like excellent performance with less than 1 millisecond decoding time.
Wow. That's bananas.
Using Moonlight. And that's like all that stuff, like Wi-Fi streaming and video rendering in real time. That's also where the 8 Elite, with all that performance headroom, like it absolutely shines.
Yeah.
So I think it's also going to be an excellent streaming machine.
Yeah, that really caught my eye.
And I saw today that they will start shipping the Indiegogo pre-orders in 4 days when we're recording this on December 8th. So they posted on the Discord a couple of hours ago, I think. So yeah, it's happening.
Wow. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's a world in which maybe not next episode, but 2 episodes from now, you might have the Odin 3.
Maybe just before
nice.
our holiday break.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
All right. Well, in NPC XL, there's gonna be computer talk.
We got computers, baby.
Computers, except mine. Mine is still somewhere in a warehouse. But John and Brendon have computers, and we're gonna talk about computers.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. Be sure to check out everything that Brendon is up to over on wavelengths.online. And Federico and I can be found over at macstories.net. And all 3 of us are on social media. Just search for our names there. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.